Yeah, of course. Okay. So Rabbi is going to read Reshika, Hinata Shamayim Vedan, Tzvan, Haitato, Vavahu, Vafasha, Kapane, Tehom, Beru, Alpani, Nakafet, Alpane Hamayim. Yeah. Yivoker Yom Echad. That's so beautiful. You did amazing. Awesome. Do you want me to bring the scroll over? Bring the stuff over, or are you okay on your part? Okay, that was amazing. Amazing. Good job, honey. You worked hard. Yes.
Leshana Tova Umetuka, a good and sweet new year to all of you. I want to thank all of you for welcoming me so warmly into this community for this year. It's been wonderful to be part of this community and to join with you. And I know that as we come together today, both in person and on Zoom, everything has been affected by the pandemic. And we are beginning yet again this year, 5783. We're building strong foundations to sustain ourselves and our sacred community. For this is a year of transition, which is why I'm here. As a sacred community in transition, we acknowledge and honor the moments of change. This year and change, we are going back to our machzor, which you will find in the racks in front of you. And on Zoom, you can find, you will find information about that if possible. We have spent as a clergy team a lot of time carefully crafting our high holiday, and we are including an array of different essential pieces of the holiday. We've thought differently about prayer. We've thought differently about worship as a group. We've thought differently about the readings that are typical for the high holidays. My understanding is that for the last 2 years, this community has engaged in more creative, thematically based services. And because that has allowed us to do a deep dive into the liturgy and motifs of the holidays, it has been very well received. And at the same time, there were elements that were missed. And we have attempted to reintroduce those elements that people missed so that they would have something of the familiar and so that there would be a connection point for everyone. This morning, our focus is on two aspects of Rosh Hashanah. We read in our liturgy the prayer poem, the Piyut, Hayom Harat Olam. Today the world is born. Last night, I spoke about how we create our world and change as individuals. This morning, Rabbi Berezin is going to speak about what hope means to us. Our other focus for this morning is found in another name for the holiday, Yom Teruah, the day of the sound of the shofar. We will emphasize the three elements of the shofar service and take a deeper dive into their meaning. Malchuyot, the first part of the shofar service, is built around the image of God as the sovereign, God as the king of all. Emphases on the sovereignty of God are key during this season because it gives God the authority to judge us during these 10 days of repentance. Zichronot, the second part of the shofar service, is built around the idea that God remembers. Think about the metaphor of the book that contains all our actions in the past year, that God reviews as God judges us. Finally, we have the last part of the shofar service, shofarot. This is what the rabbis would call a nechemta, a comfort at the end of the liturgy. Shofarot not only remembers the shofars being sounded at Mount Sinai when we received the Torah from God and entered into covenant with God, but looks ahead to the Messianic age when the great shofar will be sounded. Thank you again so much for welcoming me. I offer each of you a Shana Tova, and I know that as I speak for the clergy team, we look forward to celebrating this season of reflection and renewal with all of you. We continue on page 178.
Rosh Hashanah,
Continue on page 199. In the Talmud, Rosh Hashanah, it says, according to Rabbah, the Holy One said, on Rosh Hashanah, recite before me the words of Malchuyot, sovereignty, Zichronot, remembrance, and Shofarot. Sovereignty, so that you may acknowledge me as ruler over you. Remembrance, so that remembrances of you may rise up favorably before me. And how shall all of this be accomplished? Through the sounds of the shofar. Like musical preludes, three traditional motifs announce the highest peak of Rosh Hashanah. The calls of the shofar, the ancient sounds that we call tekiah, shivarim, teruah, and tekiah gedolah. The first motif is Malchuyot, sovereignty. Here on the first day of the year, we encounter the challenges of the Aleinu prayer to reflect on our unique identity as Jews, to meditate on what it means to praise God as the all-sovereign, the monarch of all, and to bow in reverence and submission to the creator of all. We continue on page 200 responsively by paragraph. We are stiff-necked and stubborn. Teach us to bend before you.
Convinced we're right, entrenched in our own perspective, we resist your call to repent.
Convinced we're self-sufficient, entrenched in the illusion of control, we resist your call to humility.
Convinced we can have it all, entrenched in the dream of mastering the world, we resist your call to wake up.
Today you summon us out of our arrogance, out of rigidity, fantasy, shallowness, self-deception.
Teach us to bend our knees, to bow our heads before the mystery, to realize our frailty and our finitude.
Teach us to make you Melech, sovereign in our life, to align ourselves with your goodness and truth.
We would not bow before Pharaoh. We would not bow before the Persian lord. We would not submit to any power on earth or give ourselves to any material thing. But we, the Jewish people, stiff-necked, stubborn to the end, today we bow before you.
We continue on page 202. We invite you to rise as you are comfortable for the Great Aleinu.
Aleinu leshabiach l'adonai kol l'teit gedolai leyotzei bereshit shelo
Shofar blowers, please take your places in the aisles. Please remain standing as we continue on page 206.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishma kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu la'ezman hazeh.
Together, source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, summoning us to hear the sound of the shofar. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time.
Tekiah, Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah, Tekiah, Shivarim. Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah. Tekiah. Hayom harat olam
turn to page 262. What is the relationship between memory and the shofar? Zichronot, remembrances. The second motif for sounding the shofar is the center of the traditional triad of shofar prayers, as memory and remembrance are central to our spiritual lives. Woven deeply into the character of the Jewish New Year, this theme lends an additional name to the holy day, Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance. Zichronot, a word in the plural form like Malchuyot and Shofarot, refers to the custom of reciting a series of verses from the Torah, the Psalms, and the prophets related to each theme: sovereignty, remembrance, and hope.
We continue responsively by paragraph on page 263. A messenger from another time, a stranger here in our midst, the shofar sounds remembrance.
Remember, wherever you go, I am with you.
After the flood, in the wake of destruction, Noah discovered the rainbow.
Alone on a mountain, a knife in his hand, Abraham heard the voice of compassion.
At the end of her strength, afraid for her child, Hagar found a well in the wilderness.
Remember, wherever you go, I am with you.
In sounding the horn, we summon them back, zichronot, memories of those who saw signs of your presence.
A rock gives forth water, hope can blossom in the desert.
And when loving hands lighten our darkness, you are there.
When we are caught in the thicket, feel alone or forgotten, the shofar sounds remembrance.
From the deep well of the past, in the depths of our own despair, the shofar sounds remembrance.
Remember, my presence goes with you and will lighten your burden. We turn to page 268 as we rise and invite our shofar blowers to take their place in the aisles once again.
Tekiah, Shvarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah. Arashet Sefatenu Yeram Fanecha Eram Elisa. Arashet Sefatenu Yeram Fanecha Eram Elisa. Mevinu Mazik Mapinu Machim Nekon Tekiatenu Utgamel Berachamim Berachamim Uvratzon Seder Zichronotenu.
We turn back to page 223 as we continue standing for Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu,
Page 228.
Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu Vaneinu, Ki Banu Masi. Asay Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed. Asay Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Yehoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu Vaneinu, Ki Banu Masi.
Begin our Torah service on the top of page 228.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nose Avon v'Pesha, v'Chata'a v'Nakeh.
Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, u'nero b'ma shemo yachdav. Ki mitzion titzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki mitzion titzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki mitzion. You may be seated. In just a moment, I'm going to invite our readers and our board members to come up for the Aliyah. Hayom Harat Olam. Today the world is born, and so today we will reread the story of creation. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came into being. God contracted. God spoke and existence ignited. Like a spark there was light, and God made distinctions between light and its opposite. Distinctions but not binaries, all the spectrum in between the light and the darkness, all the middle twilight was created too. Reviewing our creation story reminds us of our connection to everything. This whole universe is God's creation, and we are bound to it, to care for it. We depend upon it for the very air we breathe. Today, we remind ourselves of our connection to planet, soil, earth, air, and sky, all created through the works of God, all celebrated today on this birthday of the world. Today, too, we are reminded that humans are created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, each human carrying a divine spark, each one a chance to interact with the divine. Stranger or lover, friend or foe, each human being carries a bit of the divine. It is our duty to attempt to find it, nurture it, and remember it in our behaviors with them as well. Hayom Harat Olam, a birthday like this new year, gives us a chance to restart and reevaluate. Another revolution around the sun. Did I accomplish my goals? Did I behave as I ought? What can I put into this world, into my relationships with humans, into this planet that will make this next trip around the sun a little better? What can I do to connect to the divine a little more, to be more understanding, more forgiving, more human with this world? We will read from Bereshit at the back of your Machzorim, page 330 for the first day of creation, page 333 for the seventh day of creation, the day of Shabbat. It is my pleasure to invite Rabbi Berezin, Ashley Sherman, and Mia Simon to read from Torah, and to invite the Board of Trustees up for the Aliyah, the Torah blessing. I invite Troy Meyerson, Justin Cooper, Lisa Lukoff, Jeff Silverstein, Susie Norton, Tamara Drager, Dan Gilbert, Larry Gittleman, Arlene Arnold, Sarah Cowan, Gil DeSico, Shelley Fox, Larry Gendler, Cindy Goldberg, Margaret Gorowitz-Smith, Lester Katz, Brandon Coombe, Joseph Pinson, Jeff Platt, Marty Poulos, Jennifer Vick. Page 330 is for the beginning of the Torah reading. Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Breshit bara Elohim ad hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'ha'aretz hayita tohu vavohu v'choshech el panei tehom. V'ruach Elohim merachefet el panei hamayim.
Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or Vayahi Or Vayar Elohim Et Haor Kito V'avdel Elohim Vein Haor Uvein HaChoshech Vayikra Elohim Leor Yom ולחושך קרא לילה, ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, יום אחד.
Page 333 for the 7th day.
ויחלו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam atah b'torkeinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Before our board members are seated, it is my honor to invite our congregation to give you a blessing. If you would turn to page 235, our board members who do so much for our community, who bless us with all that they do, I invite us all to bless them at the bottom together. May the Creator of conscience, who implants within us the desire to do good, bless you who rise today to receive our gratitude and praise. May you take joy in your achievements, find meaning in a life of service, and may you go from strength to strength. We pray that all your endeavors will prosper and that your deeds will inspire others, bringing honor to our community and our people. We join with your family and friends in celebration of your good work, and together we say, Kol HaKavod, all honor to you, for you honor us through your deeds. Yasher Koach, Shana Tova, thank you.
We continue now as we say a blessing for those who are in need of healing, healing of body, healing of spirit. We keep in mind on this first day of 5783, Barton Arnold, Virginia Becker, Tony Beraldi, Jean Broscow, Lisa Brunkhorst, Hildardo Carrera, Sandy Christofferson, Edward Cohn, Judy Cooper, Manuel Delgadillo, Ariana Elnas, Pamela Fox, Rabbi Sim Glazer, Jody Goldstein, Milo Goodman, Crystal Gould, Judy Kyman, Karen Levine, Gary Marshall, Elizabeth Murray, Teresa Newell, Pedro Comi Olimpio, Karen Euler, Wendy Passer, Jamie Poole, Linda Redler, Steve Redler, Emily Sachs, George Sachs, Gregory Sachs, Steve Seglin, Linda J. Sherman, Dee Dee Spiegel, Coralie Thomas, Laura J. West, Barb Wigg, Kitty Williams, Brent Wine. And keep all those that I've named and all those that we are praying on behalf of together in our hearts as we continue with the Misha Berach, the prayer asking God's healing blessing.
I cannot change. God grant me the courage to change the things I can. God grant me the wisdom to know the difference.
Invite everyone to please rise as we lift and dress the Torah.
V'zata Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai. Etz Chaim hi l'machzik ima v'tomchecha meyushar derachecha derecheino v'chol netivotecha shalom.
Please be seated. Shana Tova, everyone.
Shana Tova.
For many months of my sophomore year of high school, the soundtrack of my life was the cult classic movie, The Sandlot. Yep, you heard me correctly. I'm talking about the coming-of-age movie about a kid who moves to town and joins what seems to be a never-ending game of pickup baseball. For weeks on end, The Sandlot was on constant repeat in my house, and the background music to my phone calls with my friends and my math homework and even breakfast before school were instructions on how to play baseball. Just stand out there and stick your glove in the air. From personal experience, I can say that this is not true. reminders that you can't have more of nothing, and the exasperated outcry, "You're killing me, Smalls." This era of my life seemed to last for an eternity, or as Sandlot fans like to say, forever. Reasonable people may ask why. Why did you watch The Sandlot on repeat for months at a time? The short answer is, I don't know. You'd have to ask my brother. Most people have a movie night in their house. In my home, we had movie eras. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, my brother was the sole arbiter of both movie selection and time frame. A few weeks ago, I stumbled across the DVD of The Sandlot, and I began wondering why these month-long movie marathons were part of my life in the first place. Even if your homes had only had movie days instead of movie eras, most of us have been known to watch our favorites more than once. But even more than asking why we watch movies more than once, I began to wonder, why do we watch them at all? What is it about movies that captivates us so? Many, if not most movies, adhere to a basic three-part structure. The movie starts out with the setup, where the characters and the plot are introduced. Act 1 ends with an incident or a crisis of some sort, upon which Act 2 will then build. Act 2 includes a confrontation and major plot points, and 3 is where it all comes together in a resolution. When we watch movies, we know that there's going to be a good outcome for the most part. We know that Spider-Man is going to save New York. We know that the guy gets the girl, that somehow the Beast turns out to be a misunderstood puppy who just loves to play fetch. We're sure that even though half of the characters of Infinity War will die with the snap of a finger, that somehow there will be a way to bring them back to life. We know that the ending will almost always feature a feel-good moment that wraps up the conflict in such a way that we believe that all is good and right in the world. So if we know all of that, if it's not the surprise endings that draw us in, then why do we watch movies at all? Why do we become so invested in the characters and the plot and the ending if we know in broad strokes that it's all going to end well? In a word, hope. We want to hold on to the hope that what we see in the movies will become our reality. We want to believe that a superhero will save the day, that the answers we seek will find their way to us, and that the misfortunes of our lives will turn out to be comical misunderstandings. In the grind of daily living, is it too much to ask for hope to simply mean happily ever after? And yet we know that movies don't mirror real life. We know that fairy tales aren't real. We know that having hope does not always equal a happily ever after. That kind of hope may make us feel good for the 90 minutes that we spend watching the movie. It may even buoy our spirits and give us hope-like feelings. But a hopeful movie isn't a hopeful reality. As Jews, we speak the language of hope. It's sprinkled throughout our ancient texts, and it's woven into the very fabric of who we are as people and as sacred community. But if hope doesn't mean a happily ever after, then what does it mean? Rebecca Solnit, the author of Hope in the Dark, writes about what hope is, and perhaps even more importantly, what hope isn't. She explains that hope is not the belief that everything was or is or will be fine. Hope locates itself in the premise that we don't know what will happen, and in that spaciousness of uncertainty, there is room to act. Hope is an embrace of the unknown and the unknowable. I say this, she writes, because hope is not like a lottery ticket that you can sit on the sofa and clutch feeling lucky. I say it because hope is an axe that you should break down doors with in case of an emergency, because hope should shove you out the door. Hope calls for action. To hope is to give yourself to the future, and that commitment to the future makes the present inhabitable. For Jews too, hope is vibrant and active and dynamic. We are not a people who wait passively for hope to come to us. And if that's true, then hope can't be stagnant and unyielding. It has to be flexible and nimble and adaptable, changing as we ourselves change. And therefore, what we hope for and the very act of hope itself ought to shift as the world shifts around us. And at the same time, we can't ignore a very real truth. And that is that for many of us, hope feels very distant and very unattainable right now. I've even heard hope described as antagonistic and sometimes even hostile. When so many of us are caught in the metaphorical hamster wheel of life, unsure of how to keep up with the unrelenting pace, when we're bombarded with news cycles of senseless hatred and violence and death, when the pandemic lingers on and basic health care is threatened, when racism runs rampant and when anti-Semitism is on the rise, hope can feel very far away. And even still, many of us come to this space today in search of hope, to try to dig our way out of the trenches and ease our burdens, to find that glimmer of godliness to hold on to at the time that we need it most. So today, on Rosh Hashanah, the day the world was created, the day when God declared that we would live in a world where light would shine out amidst the darkness, let's find that hope and light for ourselves. Let's renew our belief in hope. A number of years ago, I was a rabbinical student in the midst of clinical pastoral education, working as a chaplain at Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis on the oncology floor. One morning, I met a 19-year-old patient who we'll call Emily. It was a warm day, midsummer in St. Louis, but Emily was bundled in layers of clothing and blankets. As I walked in, she looked up from her knitting needles and she smiled warmly at me, but I could see the sadness hiding behind the smile. Emily had been admitted to the hospital to begin a new round of aggressive chemotherapy and radiation for leukemia. As I looked around the room, noting the pictures, the handmade blankets, and the stockpile of cards that surrounded her, it became clear that it wasn't Emily's first stint in the hospital and that she was planning to be here for the long haul. As we sat talking, I learned that Emily had been battling leukemia for quite some time. At one point, it had gone into remission, but the cancer returned and it was spreading. Suddenly, Emily grew silent and stared pensively out the window for a moment before she pasted a bright smile on her face, saying that this time she knew everything would be okay. As the chemo and the radiation surged through her body, Emily grew sicker and weaker. One day I walked in as her oncology team was leaving. Both Emily and her mother were in tears, which could only mean that the treatment wasn't working. But Emily, her mother, was saying, the doctors say there are other options. There are more treatments left for us to try. We have a shot at beating this. Mom, Emily said, you didn't let the doctor tell me what the odds of those treatments of working are. You two have shielded me and protected me and cared for me for such a long time that you won't even talk to me about what my other options are because we always have to keep a positive outlook. I want to know what my quality of life will be if I say yes to the next thing, what chances I actually have of beating this. What if all I want to do is stop treatment and just live my life? I deserve to know. Emily, how could you say that? You're too young to think like that. Everything will be fine. You'll see. We can't give up hope. But Mom, said Emily, that's not hope. And in that moment, I learned about the dangers of false hope. As we move through life, we're often taught to focus on the good, to have a positive outlook, to look on the bright side. And we are taught that that equals hope. But true hope demands that we see the full picture, the ugly parts and the beautiful parts woven together. Hope doesn't ask that we pretend that everything is all right. Instead, it honors that sometimes we're not okay. To withhold information out of a misguided sense that hope it always means a good outcome does a disservice to our capacity to determine our own destiny. What Emily needed more than anything in that moment was despair, to be given permission to sit in her grief and her brokenness, to be given the time and the space to hold the shattered remnants of a dream that once was, and then bid it farewell in order to make space for a new dream and a new hope. As I sat with Emily and her mother in the following days and weeks, they came to realize that hope is in fact dynamic and adaptable, moving with us as we walk the winding paths of life. So first, we hoped that one new final treatment would give Emily the miracle that she needed. And when it became clear that she wasn't the exception to the rule, we hoped that the doctors would find ways to make her comfortable while allowing her to be present and active so that she could live her life to the fullest. And then we hoped for time. We hoped that she would have time to see the people that she loved, to take the beach trip that she'd been thinking about, and to say goodbye on her own terms. It seems counterintuitive, but true hope, I believe, begins with despair. In Jewish tradition, we call this yeush. The concept of yeush, or despair, actually originates in a legal debate around the idea of lost objects. A few weeks ago, our good friend Meyer Feinstein spoke at his bar mitzvah about how we are commanded to return lost items to their owners, helping us to fulfill the mitzvah of not being indifferent. The discussion around this commandment makes it clear that we're supposed to go the extra mile to try to return those lost items. Now, the Talmud does specify, though, that there are exceptions to the rule. Certain things, like scattered fruit or scattered money or sheaves of wheat, really anything that would be unidentifiable without proper marking, are unlikely to be able to be returned even if the owner wished to do so, the finder wished to do so. So they are, as we say, fair game. The loss of these items, the Talmud says, would cause the owner to experience yeush, or despair, knowing that they could never be recovered. To experience yeush is to abandon hope. To abandon hope that the lost item will be recovered. But despair doesn't only apply to lost objects. It applies to each of us. Rabbi Sharon Brous teaches that the thing about yeush is that it's a legal principle that is entirely dependent on a spiritual and mental state, your recognition that hope is truly lost. And this is completely personal. Nobody else can tell you when you're done. Not your folks, not your best friend, your partner, your therapist, or even your rabbi. Only you will know when you have reached the point of yeush. But sometimes we need to move on not only from our hopes and expectations for others, but also from our own dreams. It's so hard to contemplate walking away when you've given so much of yourself, and yet that's precisely what we sometimes must do. Declare yeush so that we can grieve and begin to rebuild. This, I believe, is the first step towards hope. We despair of what we lost. We give ourselves permission to grieve and abandon hope in order to make room for something else to take its place. Despair is not the antithesis of hope. It's the first step towards creating new hope. When the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem in 586 BCE, the prophet Jeremiah paints a picture of the utter devastation in the book of Lamentations. After the flames subsided, our ancestors sat in sackcloth amidst the ruins and the ashes, weeping for the temple that they lost. I imagine the terror and the desolation. I imagine the priests, with legs unable to keep them upright any longer, sinking into the ruins of their beloved temple. I imagine the tear-streaked trails down their ash-smudged faces. I imagine despair. And then, each in their own time, I imagine them rising from the ashes, afraid yet determined to move on, moving toward a new vision of Judaism, moving towards hope. And each year, we reenact the cycle of despair in our high holiday season. At Tisha B'Av, we sit low to the ground, lights dimmed, chanting the haunting melody of Eicha, of Lamentations by the light of candles. And we remember the loss and the destruction and the devastation of our people. And at the same time, we lay bare our own feelings of helplessness and of failure. We bring to mind our personal losses in the last year, knowing that though time continues to pass and the pain will lessen, it never subsides completely. We sit in our brokenness and our grief. We sit in our despair. And then, like the generations before us, we rise out of the ashes and we move toward hope. Tisha B'Av is the true beginning of the high holiday season. The brokenness of despair is the first step toward the promise of new beginnings that Rosh Hashanah brings. On Tisha B'Av, we give ourselves permission to despair, to relinquish our unrealized hope in order to make room for new hope. And then we take the month of Elul to do a cheshbon hanefesh, as we look inward and do an accounting of our souls. We own up to our failures and we try to learn from them. And slowly, we begin to heal and we begin to dream again. We begin to imagine what is possible in the new year full of promise. When we declare Yeush at Tisha B'Av, we make room for ourselves to approach Rosh Hashanah with hope. Only when we embrace our own brokenness and forgive ourselves can we experience the fullness of the renewal that Rosh Hashanah brings to us. As Jews, the cycle of our season is oriented around the moon and the lunar calendar. As the sun goes down at the end of the day and we look up to the night sky, we are greeted by the bright light of the moon. Sometimes. If you happened to look up the moon last night, for example, you would not have seen it. Rosh Hashanah is the only holiday that begins on the first of the month, the day of the new moon. And on the day of the new moon, you cannot actually see it. And yet our liturgy directs us, Tiku v'shofar chodesh shofar b'kiseh l'yom chagenu, blow the shofar when the moon is covered. When the moon is covered and we cannot see even a glimmer of light shining out from the darkness, we are commanded to blow the shofar, the symbol of hope. Even when we look into the darkness, we know that the moon is there. It may be the slightest little sliver of light. It may be a full, bright moon of promise. It may be completely hidden. And yet it is constant and unwavering, even when we cannot see it. Sometimes hope feels distant and unattainable. And in those moments, we give ourselves permission to despair. But like the moon, hope is cyclical. In the darkest days, we sound the shofar, and we allow the piercing notes to reverberate within our souls to remind us that even when we can't see it, the moon is there, peeking out from behind the shadows. And so too is hope. Elie Wiesel of blessed memory teaches that even though Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden, they did not give up hope. Instead, they sought the meaning of life and had the courage to leave the garden and begin anew. According to Jewish tradition, writes Elie Wiesel, creation did not end with people. It began with them. When God created people, God gave them a secret. And that secret was not how to begin, but how to begin again. Today, we too begin again. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
This beautiful song, Kanfei Ruach, I found while looking for music from the Israeli communities for our Shabbat Shira services. And the words were just so powerful in what humans' relationship to hope can be. Human being, rise above, rise up. You possess a powerful strength. You have wings of spirit, wings of mighty eagles. Don't forsake them, or they may forsake you. Seek them, O human being, and you will find them immediately. Aleh
We continue now on page 283. Please read together with me. I know that poverty must cease. I know this through the brokenness and conflict in my heart. I know that protest is my most prophetic act, and that the world is longing for a new soul, a new healing moment. I know that when we awaken to our origins and become truly human, we bring hope to the children and to the earth. I feel called today to bring the people together to break the bread and tell the story. I feel called today to be a mystic in action, aligned to the dynamics of the universe. I feel called today to give my gift, to listen to the heartbeat of the broken world, to heal the fragmentation of people and planet. I feel called today to celebrate the wonder of creation and respond to sacredness and the challenges of life. I feel called today to participate in the work of my time, to fall in love, to feel at home. I feel called today to be inflamed with enduring hope, to be at one with the universe, to be touched by God. I feel called today to compose a new paragraph for life. Please rise as we continue with the final set of shofar calls on page 284. Shofar blowers, please take your places in the aisles.
Shivarim Trua. Tkia. Tkia. Shivarim. Tkia. Tkia. Trua. Tkia Gedola. Shakach.
Please be seated. At this time, we remember those who are no longer with us, who's always have a place in our hearts and our minds as we bring them with us to sacred experiences such as the one we are in now. If I say the name of a loved one that you are remembering today, I invite you to please rise as you feel able. As a community, we are in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, for Warren E. Bud Phillips, Martin Sofer, and Mike Vereb. We remember the yard sites of Arthur B. Anchel, Marie Bloom, Paul Blotke, Hyman Brody, Louis M. Cohn, Sylvia Cyrus Davis, Nellie Von Dorn, Rose Edelstein, Louis D. Fadio, Molly Franklin, Rose Goldstein, Philip Greenberg, Martha Harris, Jenny Hornstein, Herman Jacoby, David Mendel Kipperman, Gerald Zoll Merer, Lucille C. Maper, Edwin G. Milder, Fred Ostro, Mrs. Alexander Pollock, Molly Pred, Bernard H. Raskin, Henrietta Rosenstein, Iska Block Rothholtz, Frederick Joseph Simon, Ann Slusky, Harriet R. Spearer, Dora M. Yaffe, and Eleanor Yale. Together with those names and the ones that we hold in our hearts, I invite everyone to turn to page 292 as we rise as one community for Mourners Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrachi rute v'amlich malchute, v'chayechon u'v'yamechon, u'v'chayet dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'richu, la'ela ula'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be for a blessing. We say together, amen. Please be seated. And now it is my pleasure to invite Lisa Lukoff, a member of our Board of Trustees, to give us some announcements this morning.
Shana Tova. First, I wanted to thank the choir and the musicians, the security officers, Concepts AV Integration, of course, our clergy and our temple staff for making these services happen. An important reminder that Friday Shabbat Shuvah is located at the Jean Leahy Mall. There'll be no service here at Temple Israel and no Zoom service. So join us downtown for a special event. It's open to the public, so please bring your friends and neighbors as well and show them why we love our Temple Israel community. And I've heard there may be donuts. If you need mobility assistance for high holiday services, please reach out to Mindy Marburg. We have ushers who would be more than happy to help you get in the building comfortably. We are hosting a food drive through Yom Kippur. You can pick up a bag to carry your donations after today's services. We are asking you to fill your bags with non-perishable fruits, veggies, and main dishes. You can drop your donations off at Temple anytime during the week or drop them on Yom Kippur. We are looking for volunteers to help sort, pack, weigh, and deliver donations after Yom Kippur services. We'll be having the memorial service on Sunday, October 2nd at the Temple Israel Cemetery Chapel in Kol Nidre next Tuesday, October 4th, here at Temple at 7:30 p.m. Please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, and thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. As you can tell, we have lots going on as we celebrate the holidays, and don't think it's over after that because Sukkot's right around the corner. So keep on the lookout for lots of things going on. We conclude the service with Hayom Harat Olam. Today, the day the world was created.
Hayom Harat Olam, Hayom Harat Olam,
Tova.